Hey sweet friends, and welcome back to the channel, or if it's your first time here, welcome especially. I'm Sally and I'm so glad that you've stopped by. In today's deep dive, we are going to be talking about the thyroid. This topic was inspired by Sam Bryant over on Instagram, who asked me to talk about the subject. If you're not yet following me over on Instagram, go check it out. I just share more life stuff there, but it's also a great opportunity to kind of get to engage. And if there are specific things that you want talked about, I will often ask and we'll have polls and that kind of thing. So SR Hand over on Instagram, you can go check me out. But before we dive into today's topic, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up if you like the information that you hear today. And if you leave a comment, that's also a really huge help to just get the message out there and help me to keep doing what I'm doing over here. So what is the thyroid? The thyroid is a gland that releases hormones that regulate our metabolism. So it's often actually talked about as a gas pedal. How much gas we're letting into the system, letting out of the system, how hot your system is burning, so to say. So your thyroid hormones are regulating how efficiently, so to say, you are using your macronutrients in all the different parts of your body, cells in your body. And thyroid function is really important to things like body temperature, how fast your heart beats. Those are both directly related to metabolism. As you can see, I'm looking down at some notes here just to kind of make sure I stay on track, so bear with me. But thyroid health is also really important for growth, for breathing, and it also impacts your cholesterol levels. So it affects your entire system. If we have a sluggish thyroid, we're gonna see a sluggish metabolism. Hypothyroidism is something that's often talked about when people have like low thyroid function. Those people might have difficulty losing weight. They might have like a slower metabolic rate than is expected. People with hyperthyroid are going to have more thyroid hormone, and you might kind of see the reverse situation going on. So there are two hormones involved in the thyroid. One is actually produced there. That's going to be T4, and it is the inactive hormone, inactive form of the hormone. And then you have T3, which is converted in the tissues that receive essentially that T4. T3 is active, and it's what modulates cell function and acts like that gas pedal. So we can already see that there could be two different problems with the thyroid if we're seeing dysfunction. Number one, we could not be producing enough T4 initially. Number two is that we have an issue with the conversion of T4 to T3. Both of those things are going to result in metabolic issues. Okay, so moving forwards, the thyroid is super sensitive to environmental toxins. So any chemicals in your environment can impair proper thyroid function. And furthermore, thyroid hormone is produced from iodine. So if we don't have enough iodine in our diets, we might not be able to produce enough T4. And furthermore, if we are exposed to other toxins that are not necessarily toxins in the conventional sense, but let's say substances that are taking the place of iodine, we also might have a problem. So some examples are going to be like fluoride, fluoride in toothpaste, fluoride in water. That's a really big reason for which we want to actually filter our water. Fluoride is not meant to be ingested. Yes, there is some benefit to it on your teeth, but it has even been shown more recently that you can have too much fluoride in your teeth, and that is also harmful. So I actually recommend, especially for adults, using a fluoride-free toothpaste, and then of course filtering your water. And then chlorine is another one that is going to take the place of iodine on those same receptors. So we don't want to drink chlorinated water. If you spend a lot of time in a chlorinated pool, you might have an issue with this. Again, another reason to filter your water, and then there's the whole chlorinated pool piece. So iodine, environmental toxins are two factors that contribute to thyroid health, and then those two relate because if we're exposed to a lot of chlorine, fluoride, other substances that can take the place of iodine on your receptors, then you're not going to be able to produce enough of that T4. Furthermore, stress, impaired liver function, poor gut health, and restrictive diets can all impair the conversion of T4 to T3. So cortisol levels are all kind of the common thread here when our cortisol levels are high, higher than they're supposed supposed to be, we see dysregulation all down the line. And whether it is stress, whether it is impaired liver function, poor gut health, those are all, like, we talked about stress specifically, but impaired liver function and poor gut health are stressors on the body. Another massive thing, something that we probably see most frequently, is going to be blood sugar dysregulation. Blood sugar dysregulation is a massive contributor to thyroid dysfunction and to stress as a whole. So I mentioned before, restrictive dieting is an issue. Again, another stressor on the body, but also largely tied into blood sugar regulation or dysregulation a lot of the time. If you are not, number one, supplying your body with the necessary nutrients it needs, it's gonna go into conservation mode, and that's gonna, slow down the thyroid. Because think about it, if you are not getting enough, if you are in a state of deprivation, your body thinks that it needs to conserve every single thing possible in order to keep itself safe. So it's kind of like this rational response that we would slow down our metabolisms. It's going to help us to survive for longer. The issue is that it's not going to help us to thrive. Now, blood sugar regulation is another one of those things. If we are constantly encountering a state of acute blood sugar emergency, if you don't know what I mean by that, go check out my blood sugar dysregulation video. I'll make sure that's linked below. But if we're constantly encountering this state of emergency, so to say, we have our cortisol, our epinephrine, and our neoepinephrine levels way elevated, far more than they're supposed to be. You're only really supposed to have those hormones kick into play as related to blood sugar regulation in true emergency situations. So think you are running away from a predator, you're in a car, you have to swerve away from something. However, what happens because we eat super high carb diets that are very, very refined, not balanced out with protein, we maybe don't eat frequently enough, or just eating low quality foods, is our blood sugar spikes a bunch of insulin, rushes there, it then crashes too low, and you're in this state of acute emergency. Again, you can check out that video. Here I go trying to explain the whole blood sugar regulation piece, but it has a video of its own. So what this does, again, is it leads to super high cortisol, and super high cortisol is going to inhibit that proper thyroid function. Okay, so let's talk about how to support a healthy thyroid. So number one thing is going to be blood sugar regulation. When we have blood sugar dysregulation, it's not only affecting your thyroid, but it's affecting your whole endocrine system. And there's just this cascade of negative effects. And you are gonna see consequences on your metabolism, on your fertility, on your just emotional well-being. And this is a state that so many people are living in without even realizing it. And as I talk about in that other video, it is probably the thing that has been the most transformative in my life, is learning to properly regulate my blood sugar. And with the clients I'm working with right now, it's the number one thing that I see. It's blood sugar regulation, and then we see digestion. Those two are often actually pretty closely related because of the stress piece. And then there's iodine. We need to make sure that we're getting enough iodine in our diets. Now, I would not recommend just going and starting with an iodine supplement. If I were working with you directly and looking at your diet and lifestyle factors, there may be instances in which I do recommend an iodine supplement, but we're generally not gonna start with that. So ways that we can get iodine in our diet regularly is eating things like seaweed. You can, sprinkle that on top of salads. You can eat, I love the little seaweed crunchy papers. They're so good. You can also add it to soups. There are lots of things that you can do with seaweed, cod, shrimp, oysters, and just wild caught ocean fish in general. I would use this as an opportunity to emphasize that whenever it comes to fish, we want to make sure that we're eating wild caught. That really completely determines kind of the nutrient makeup of what you're eating. So wild caught fish. I think anything that's usually coming from the ocean is going to be higher in iodine. So those are great places to start, and also avoiding, again, fluoride and chlorine that are going to take the place of iodine on those same receptors. B vitamins are also going to be really important to thyroid function. I personally recommend eating liver. If you've been around for a while, you know that I take a food first approach, or even when it comes to supplementation, I like to say whole food supplementation. So before I'm going to encourage you to take a pill or a conventional supplement, I'm going to say, how can we get this nutrient from food? And beef liver in particular, is one of the best ways that we can get B vitamins in our diet. So there are plenty of ways to eat it. If you like it straight, fantastic. I do not. I absolutely hate it. So I grind it into like ground beef or sausage. You can do chili with it. You can do liver mush. I have some really amazing recipes coming out in my starter guide, which is launching in November. So keep your eye out for that. I'm really excited to share those. You can also cut it up, freeze it in little pieces and like make your own pills, or you can buy desiccated beef liver capsules. If you want to know how to make those liver pills, I can link that video below as well. And then we want to make sure that we're properly preparing goitrogenic foods. Now, if you don't know what goitrogenic foods are, think like cruciferous vegetables, and certain grains are also going to be goitrogenic. All this means is that it can impair thyroid function. Now, I want to be very clear because there's actually a lot of controversy in this space when it comes to these goitrogenic foods or foods that are high in oxalates. You're going to see those being the same foods. They're not evil. They're not awful for you. Now, we do not want to eat copious amounts of cruciferous vegetables in their raw forms. That is not good for you. Like, I'm sorry, if you're on the green smoothie train and you're putting a bunch of kale or spinach into your smoothies, that is doing far more harm than good. And it's probably not as tasty as if you just let that out of your smoothie and made a delicious mineral smoothie. However, when we cook these vegetables down, so if you do like sauteed kale, sauteed spinach, you put them in soups or something like that, they actually do have a lot of benefit in our diet because of certain micronutrients and antioxidants they contain, and furthermore because of fiber. And also when you cook them, prepare them properly with grains, soaking them, sprouting them, that proper preparation as a whole, you are going to make them much more digestible. You're getting rid of most of the phytic acid, most of the oxalates, pretty much eliminating the problem of goitrogenic foods. Now, if you're someone who already really struggles with thyroid health, you may be a person who needs to be more restrictive with these foods, even in their cooked form. So that's the bio-individual aspect of it. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. I know for me, I can cook these foods and eat them just fine. I can even do like a massaged kale salad sometimes, and that's totally fine for me. But if you struggle with thyroid function, then maybe we just need to take a step back, at least for the time being. And then we want to engage in appropriate exercise. So exercise consistently has actually been shown to improve thyroid function, improve the ability of T4 to be produced, get where it needs to get, conversion, all that good stuff. But the flip side of this is that we don't want to be running ourselves into the ground such that then it's causing more stress and we're taking a metabolic hit. So what does supportive exercise look like? First of all, I think that every single person should find a way to do resistance training consistently. For me right now, that looks like weightlifting. I'm weightlifting about 4 times a week. I say, start with even just 2 or 3 times a week and have a plan. It might be Pilates, it might be bar. Big fan of bar. I used to teach bar classes. You can use just your body weight, but find something that is challenging and that is consistent. And we want to make sure that we're fueling our bodies properly. So having adequate carbohydrates, some protein, some fat, but especially before workout, that's a time where we do want to have more carbohydrates to fuel that workout, refueling with enough carbohydrates to replenish your glycogen stores, and protein as well after the fact to keep everything regulated and help build muscle. And then there's the cardio piece. A lot of people here, I'm going to be honest, are scared of cardio. I'm going to challenge that because there is a big difference between just saying, I'm going to go run 10 miles pretty consistently, I'm not fueling my body appropriately, and strategically fueling, again, carbohydrates, electrolytes, making sure that you're in a state where your body can handle that stress, doing cardio, even if it is higher intensity, even if you are going and running 10 miles, coming back, fueling appropriately, and knowing how to recover. I think it all comes down to training like an athlete and treating your body with the respect and intention it deserves. So passionate about this. I just think we need to take a holistic view. Not saying you need to start running, not saying that's going to be supportive for everybody, but I am saying I think that it is going to be best for everyone to find a way to engage in resistance training and then find a regular form of cardio that you can also engage in that is sustainable, in which you can build a supportive routine and recovery routine around. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox, but engaging in proper exercise is essential. So those are my basic tips and tricks for supporting a healthy thyroid. Obviously, eating enough is a part of blood sugar regulation, getting the nutrients you need as a whole. Everything I teach here on this channel really does contribute to thyroid health. And just remember that all of your hormones, that whole endocrine system, really is going to be related. Okay, so let's talk about Hashimoto's real quick. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition in which your immune system is overactive, has mistakenly identified the cells of your thyroid as a threat, and therefore your immune system is attacking your thyroid. This, therefore, is impairing your ability to produce adequate thyroid hormone. So what can we do if you have Hashimoto's to try to combat this? Now, obviously, if you are in the position of having Hashimoto's, I encourage you to work with a practitioner, work with your doctor, find someone you can really trust, because it is highly individualized and the immune system is super complex. But as a whole, we can do the same exact things that we would be doing normally to support a healthy thyroid. It's just going to be even more important for you, to be honest, to be balancing your blood sugar, to be managing stress, to be having adequate iodine in your diet, to be avoiding environmental toxins and everything we already talked about, getting those B vitamins, getting your exercise in, properly preparing goitrogenic foods. This might be a case of needing to eat fewer of those goitrogenic foods, even if you are preparing them properly. But then looking at the immune piece specifically, we do really want to put an emphasis on gut health, because most of the immune system, to be honest, is housed in the gut. And so when we see a lot of immune dysfunction, we really have to go back down to that foundation of digestion and figure out how to help everything run smoothly there, heal the gut, and we're often going to see improvements in immune conditions. Furthermore, also inflammation management. So anytime the body is inflamed, we're going to have more of that immune activity, and we're generally going to see more issues with conditions such as Hashimoto's. Now, I have videos on inflammation, I have videos on gut health, so definitely go check them out. But when it comes to inflammation management, a lot of that ties into our fatty acid balance. So we want to make sure that we are eating enough saturated fats, avoiding processed polyunsaturated fats, that we have a good omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. And that sounds like it's really complicated. I know it can be overwhelming, but realistically, what so much of that comes down to is just eating a whole foods diet that includes a lot of the foods we've already talked about. So like eating liver, eating seafood that is wild caught. As a whole, we want to make sure that our meat is all grass-fed or pasture raised, because that's going to affect the fatty acid balance of those foods. And then of course, avoiding things like cooking with vegetable oils. But I will link below videos on digestion, on inflammation management, so that you have those resources available to you. And again, I encourage you to work with a practitioner, because if you are in the position of dealing with an autoimmune disease, there are a lot of bio-individual factors, and you're going to want to just work carefully to learn how to support your body under those circumstances. So if you have any questions about what we've talked about here, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comment section. I do my best to get back to every comment, unless it is mean and obnoxious, in which case I usually will just ignore it, but I'm not saying any of you are leaving mean and obnoxious comments, but in case you're some random person who thought about it. Okay, tangent over. Thanks so much for being here. Again, questions, comments, concerns in the comment sections, and until next time.